My name is David Celentano. I am the current chair of the department. I took over 6 years ago. It seems like almost yesterday. But I'm very grateful to Mary Emma Armstrong, who has donated the chair of the Department of Epidemiology in memory of her father, Charles Armstrong, who was one of the founders of the NIH and had a really illustrious career in infectious disease research. So, why can't I make this work? Okay, so let's just take a moment. Some of you were last here at Hopkins before any of these buildings, which currently surround the block, were here. And this auditorium is the old East Wing auditorium. Remember that? Well, now it's sort of, I feel like I'm the captain of the Titanic when I'm in here. It's got that very nautical feel. Either that or it's the Princeton Club. I'm not sure which. But both of which make me feel somewhat uncomfortable. But the building has changed. The place is even more crowded than you can imagine. I love showing this picture of the Epidemiology Club because it's really the Epidemiology Old Boys Club. This was the department in the early 1930s. There are an awful lot of people there, but if you squint really hard, there's one woman. So that was the department. This was the original school, and we have now grown like Topsy. So it's really quite a remarkable change that's happened. You know, there have only been 7 chairs in the history of this school and of the department. So from 1916 on, you certainly probably know, I would say at least 5 out of the 7 of these people. Everyone, of course, knows Wade Hampton Frost. Ken Maxey may have been somewhat forgotten by some of you, but I think lives on with incredible contributions. Phil Sartwell was a biggie of his day. Abe Lilienfeld, I think probably many of you were touched by him. He was an amazing man. I took Epi 1 from Abe in 1973 when he was standing in right about this spot. It was also the time he had the heart attack in class. That was a little frightening. Leon Gordis was chair for 19 years. John Samet from 93 through 2008, and then me. And these are awfully big shoes to fill, and I feel a bit stunned at times that I'm following in their history. They were all amazing people and really left indelible marks on many of you, and if not directly, then quite indirectly via the way we do our teaching. I can't sort of talk about Hopkins and the department without thinking about George Comstock. From a Sandy clip in an obituary in the American Journal of Epidemiology wrote, "Dr. Comstock valued education and took advantage of every opportunity to teach. He would occasionally comment that everyone thought he would live forever, but he smiled as he exclaimed, 'They must not be familiar with life tables.'" I think many of you can resonate. That was probably Lab 3 in Principles of Epi. Dr. Comstock was my field supervisor and advisor during my dissertation, and he was my go-to with questions about what to do in what situation. And unfortunately, he died just about at the time when I became chair, but I would have loved to have just said, "See, I could do it." Amazing man. A few facts about where Epi is today. This is as of Wednesday. There are 105 faculty members in the department today. There are 55 on the tenure track and 50 on the non-tenure track. We're a little behind in women. I have, over the last 6 years, been doing my level best to keep promoting women. I am pleased to say that on July 1, we have 4 new assistant professors joining the department, all of whom are women, 2 of whom are underrepresented minorities. But we are getting there, and I would say within 10 years, there'll be as many female professors as male professors. When we look at this 31 professors, there are 7 who are quite part-time. And so it's a little bit, the ranks are a little bit smaller. Um, we're organized. Assisting me, this department has become way too big for one person to deal with it. Terry Beatty is a deputy chair, and Elizabeth Platts, who you're going to hear over the next hour or so. Um, we also have devolved leadership of the department to basically a committee. There's an elected and an appointed committee called the Faculty Executive Committee, who really makes all the major policy decisions in the department. Moises Sklo and Derek Cummings are the co-chairs. And we're still organized around many of the areas that you probably all were part of. Infectious disease is still the largest group, general epi methods, aging, genetics, occupation and environment, cardiovascular and clinical are now joined, clinical trials, and cancer. I hope I didn't leave any out. So I'm going to quickly move on to the next slide in case I did. Students, as of the 30th of April, we had 182 students currently registered. There are about 105 or so doctoral students. There are about 75 master's students. This past year, we were a bit shocked by the proportion of students who accepted our offer to come. Our expected rate is usually about 50% of the offers we make are accepted. This last year, 87% of the people we made an offer to came, and they are one heck of a class. This past fall, we had about 200 doctoral applicants. We admitted 18. So it's gotten, I definitely would never have gotten into this department. So we also have moved to where we have now, I think, about 31 postdoctoral fellows in the department, which is really quite different than we've had in the past. So things are changing a bit. And things are changing towards a little less, somewhat less focus on sort of etiology and a little bit more of a focus on the practice of epidemiology, of getting out into the community. So, for example, at the Baltimore City Health Department, we have a shared faculty member who's half in the school and half in the Baltimore City Health Department, who basically is in charge of epidemiology for the city. And I think that's sort of the kinds of moves that we're looking towards. We have about 175 staff members, full-time staff members in the department, 24 of whom list their title as biostatistician, most common. The average tenure is about 10 and a half years, so people come here and stay. And I'm glad to say, while the department has grown, the epi admin itself has been on a diet and has been somewhat reduced. So with that being said, a little orientation of the department, why don't we get to our program?